right up my alley. That's up my
Hey,
alley.
Hyde, you got segment 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that orange pop there, Omar?
No, seltzer water, sir.
Oh, okay. Good job.
Yeah, I'm not on the soda life anymore.
I didn't think so. I didn't think so.
I'm too old for soda life.
I was going to call you out on that.
Can't drink that demon juice right there.
Demon juice. I like that idea.
Okay. Segment 3, Hyde. The last time we did an X and Omar show, the Miami Dolphins had plenty of signings, but as I said, it compared to a meal with a lot of side dishes, no entrees, like a whole tapas entree where there was no meat, Dave. We were waiting on the entrees, and then Teron Armstead signed with the Miami Dolphins after a visit. Miami Dolphins got the deal done. Added a 3-time Pro Bowl left tackle, a guy who should be able to be the foundation of a troublesome offensive line that this team's had for the past 3 years. And then general manager Chris Grier said, but wait, I'm not done. And decided that 2 days later, Miami Dolphins would pick up Tyreek Hill, a 6-time Pro Bowl player, arguably the most electric playmaker in the NFL, and give him the largest contract in the NFL for a wide receiver, signing a 5-year, $140 million contract. A few days later, Miami traded away Devante Parker and picks to New England. Former first-round pick for the Miami Dolphins goes bye-bye, and in return, Miami gets a 2023 third-round pick. As a result of all these maneuvers, the Dolphins head into the 2022 NFL Draft, which begins on Thursday with 4 selections. The first of which is pick 102 in the 3rd round. Oh my God, Dave, we're going to be sleeping through the 1st round, and you're going to have to wake me up by the time the 3rd round gets here.
Omar, I'll be off with the Heat doing the playoffs, but
I forgot what that life is like.
I'm curious, your mock drafts, how can you do these anymore? It's like it's taken right out of your wheelhouse, those mock drafts.
Listen,
I love those.
I got a surprise for people. Yes, it is killing my excitement of these drafts and the mock draft. But for my next mock draft, which comes out this weekend, I'm going to trade back into the 1st round, Dave.
There you go. There you go. That's the way to keep it relevant.
Yeah. So Dave, are you okay with a quiet draft considering the haul that it brought in?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that little question right there. Look, they're a better team, right? They're a better team. You go get veterans, you get top-end veterans as they did. They're a better team. I was a little surprised Armstead went for the price he did, because initially he was going to set the left tackle market, and then it came out, well, he's got some injuries.
Yeah,
okay.
Injuries and age. I never thought he'd set the left tackle market.
Okay. And Tyreek Hill, look, he is electric, right? And you put him with Jalen Waddle, and how our team's going to defend the speed. That'll be interesting. How it's used, how it's defended. You see why they got him. That said, that's like the last move of a team ready to win the Super Bowl. Usually, you trade away your draft picks. You set the market with a wide receiver contract, and that's the guy you said that's going to put us over the top to win a championship. So every team that does stuff like that, that's what it's done.
Les Snead has been doing it. They haven't had a 1st-round draft pick in like 6 years.
What did the Rams win last year?
They just won the Super Bowl, but they were building to that day. They've always been on that F them picks mentality.
What are their 2 best players?
Draft picks. Okay.
Right. Okay, that's my point. Yes, they have changed how teams see this. Now, here's my only point on this. And the Dolphins are a better team. Tyreek Hill's a great player. Armstead is what they needed. I get all that. Okay, I get all that. Their model has moved so differently. For the past 3 years, all everybody said is, we're going to build with draft picks. We're going to do it. We're great. We're great. And now, after the draft picks.
No. It is draft picks are about you know how I feel about draft picks. I don't care about them because one, where you're selecting isn't going to determine the caliber or quality of player that you have. It's your ability to evaluate and scout talent. And that's more important.
It's not an either or, it's a both. Where you're drafting and your ability to scout talent.
But you had spent 3 years hoarding away, trading away players, hoarding away draft picks, making 3 first-round picks in one draft, 2 in another draft, having 5 picks in the top 50 in a draft, and that accumulates talent. But one, that talent has to be developed, and 2, more importantly, that talent has to be led, and that talent has to watch people so that they can grow under those people and see how those people do it to become pros. I have never, ever, ever been comfortable with the Dolphins team as an organization, with the exception of the 2 seasons where they had good leadership, which is Chad Pennington and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Those 2 were like the Pied Piper. Everybody followed. And it was leadership that really set the tone. Now, it's cool to have a lot of talent, but when you don't have leadership on your team, which I felt like this team did not have.
They didn't have any talent on those teams with Ryan Pitt. What are you talking about?
They had
no talent. They had 5-win talent. Okay, he was a great leader, but what?
No disrespect.
So what?
Do not disrespect Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I'm not at all.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I'm saying he had no talent around
He had a winning team before he got the rug pulled from under him, and the team was handed to Tua. So do not disrespect Ryan.
See, here's how this offseason makes sense to me. Besides, they're improved. They have a window, okay, with these young players, a lot of them before they get to their second contract.
Yep.
This is the time to spend money. Okay, This is it. This is the time. Okay, so I expected them to have a big free agent. I didn't expect them to basically throw their whole draft overboard. Okay,
We draft.
Yeah, all of a sudden, every Dolphin fan has gone from we love the draft, we're going to build young players, we're going to build to F the draft. It's like.
You know how I feel. When we had the Desean Watson debate, I was like, Christian Wilkins, Noah Igbenogany, Austin Jackson, and
that's a different discussion. Everybody, I was on board with that, with trading for a elite quarterback.
Dave, they mean nothing except cheap labor that you can sell hope and promise for. Like
you've been around
the
drafts, I guess, too much to say they mean nothing. They mean nothing. Look at the
most impactful draft pick the Dolphins have had in the last decade.
Well, again, you've been around the Dolphins too much. Look around the impactful draft of the championship tems. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, okay. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill was what, a 4th-round pick?
He's 5th round, and he went because he had domestic abuse issues. That's why he went that low. Okay, I mean, and there were character issues with
there are going to be some guys with character issues, and trust me, you can make. I remember there was a point on the Dolphins team where the top 2 players, Brent Grimes and Cameron Wake, were undrafted players.
Again, you keep using the Dolphins as your frame of reference for why the draft doesn't matter. Use the championship teams as your frame of reference.
Patriots suck at drafting, and okay, they got Tom Brady in the 6th round. Woo! Like, what have they done lately? Patriots traded for Devante Parker, a 3rd-round pick, because they said, you know what? We can't draft a player as good as Devante Parker. That's how important the draft is, Dave.
You're using one player, Devante Parker, to say the draft doesn't matter. It matters in Buffalo, right? It's mattered in Buffalo.
When you get the QB right, it matters. Yeah. When you get the QB right.
Okay. That's my point. Okay. You drafted a offensive line. You draft a defensive line. That's how teams are built.
Yeah, but and they drafted a defensive line, and then they said, all right, everybody we drafted sucks. Let's go get Von Miller. A draft does not. It's a good place to get your mortar and bricks. I don't think it's going to build you a skyscraper. I really don't. I think it's important because you get young, cheap labor. Hopefully that young, cheap labor is good.
That's why it is important. And you in football, I know this is a fundamental idea. As people get older, they get hurt. And not only do they get hurt, they don't like getting hit like they accepted when they're 22, 23, 24. It is a tough game. And they get smarter as they go a little older, saying, this is not fun getting hit in practice or in games. So you need good young players as you need bloodline.
You need young, dumb, cheap labor. That's what you need.
Yes. Yeah, you guys going for that second contract.
Yeah. And then they figure it out.
That was my only question. I was surprised that but this was the time to spend money. This is the window for this, and probably next year they got to find out who to invest in with the second contracts. A lot of these young guys, and they're young. So, all right, Omar, our first question. We're ready for that.
Our first question comes from Sean, who wants to know: do you buy the national media narrative that Tyreek Hill will take a step back, as a lot of media members are saying? That he doesn't have what's that quarterback's name again? It's Patrick Mahomes. Now that he's they're taking a shot at Tua.
I have never seen the quote national media be the source of so many stories. It's just amazing. And what we're talking about is the conversational stories right now. Baker Mayfield is the topic of conversation because they run out of things to talk about. So, okay, let's set these talk shows over here and not talk about them. Okay, so is Tyreek Hill going to take a step backwards? I have an open mind. I'm willing to see what happens here. Okay, he's going to have an offense built around his skills in some level, in the same way the receiving package was built around his skills in Kansas City. Let's see what comes of it. There's no reason he should take a step backwards. So, I mean,
I think that he will take a step back from this standpoint. He was playing on a team with 3 Hall of Fame talents. Teams had to stress, the opposing defensive coordinators were stressed for a week about how do we stop. Maybe we could stop 2 of the 3. Let's figure out which 2 of the 3 we could stop. Yeah, only 1 Hall of Fame talent here on this team.
What are we talking now? Statistically wise, he's going to take a step back? His game isn't going to take a step back. He is who he is. That talent is there. Now,
what I love about Tyreek Hill, and it's funny that Tyreek Hill is not part of this game, because since he entered the league 6 years ago, every team in the NFL has been trying to find another Tyreek Hill, a guy who's electric, who can catch a 2-yard swing pass or check down at a drag and take it 80 yards for a touchdown. I mean, those are rare human beings. They just don't come around very often. And I remember in the draft process, everybody's like, yeah, Jalen Waddle's another Tyreek Hill. Like, okay, everybody's another Tyreek Hill. Well, it's great when you can actually have the original. And I think that that's important. However, I do believe that statistically he might, and success-wise, he might take a step back. He's no longer playing for a championship contender. He's playing for a playoff hopeful. All the attention will steer in his direction, and he's going to have to be able to manage all that extra attention, all of it. Because while you can say he got doubled and got extra attention, okay, you leave him, you give him extra attention, the tight end starts killing you. You start to cover the tight end, Tyreek becomes open. There was a give and take there. There's no give and take here.
There will be a give and take here. Yeah, sure there will be. There's going to be less attention to Waddle, who's going to take a step up in his second year. There's going to be less attention to Gesicki. I mean, there's going to be spaces for all these guys to make their mark too. Okay?
Yeah, but who's going to make a defense say, okay, we can't bracket Tyreek, let's go over there? Like, I don't see anybody.
Well, with Kansas City, he was bracketed all the time. He was bracketed all the time. No teams did one-on-one. They had double coverage on him all the time, and that left the tight end open a lot. You talk about the question to me, if we're talking Tyreek Hill's numbers or his game, his numbers might go down. I don't know. You know, we're gonna have to see how it choose. But I'll be curious to see where Kelsey's numbers go too. I mean, what's his look like next year when he doesn't have Tyreek Hill running with him?
Same thing with Mahomes.
Well,
Chris Buston asked, do you feel comfortable with Cedric Wilson and Lynn Bowden Jr. filling the roles previously held by Devante Parker?
Well, let's talk. What was the role of Devante Parker? Devante Parker had two things, really. One was a quick slant for a first down, and the other was he ran deep. They threw the ball up to him, and he was very good at going and getting it. I mean, that was his thing. Okay, that's what Ryan Fitzpatrick and him did for a season and a few games. Okay, and that's that. So, but for this offense to succeed with the Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and the other people, Cedric
Wilson, yeah.
Wilson, Cedric Wilson's 6'2", 195. He's not as big as Devante. Devante Parker's 220. I mean, 6'3", 220. So he's not as big. But I assume what's going to happen, and we won't know, this is going to be a timing, precision, route running offense, okay? And that wasn't Devante Parker's strength.
It certainly was not.
So can they take his place? Yeah, I think they can.
Not only that, and this is no disrespect to Devante, because I have respect for Devante. I can understand why the Patriots traded for him. For 10 games, he's pretty good. He's decent. He's a good number 2. However, he's not that good of a route runner, ever, and has never been a good route runner. He's a contested ball catcher, and that's cool, but I would rather a guy get open. I personally believe, and this is a stretch to say, but it's based on the 2 training camps that I've watched. If you ask me to pick who has more talent, not who's a better NFL player, but who has more talent, Preston Williams or Devante Parker, I'm going to go with Preston Williams. And I'm not even sure I'm even debating it. And I'm pretty sure their teammates would say the same thing. Now, Preston Williams got his own issues that he's got to address, and he's got to learn an offense, and he's got to mature. Now, Lynn Bowden Jr. is the same thing. Who remembers the end of the 2019 season where this guy was catching the ball, making the first guy miss, and getting yards after the catch? He has some talent there. Now, he's got to also figure it out and mature, learn an offense, a new offense. But Cedric Wilson, it's going to be interesting to see what his role is, because I see Tyreek and Jalen Waddle as guys who move all around and who play in the slot. And that means Cedric Wilson is going to be moving all around. Not to mention, Mike Gesicki plays slot. Mike Gesicki is a slot. So you've got multiple pieces that are going to be moving all around, and it's very good. It's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously the X is Tyreek Hill, and you're gonna, who's going to stretch the field, who's going to run those slants, who's going to run those deep digs, who's going to run those drags. This offense, they've got a lot of weapons, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. The
good thing about the receivers now is they don't have health problems. Okay, they're not counting on any. They're not counting on anybody. Counting on. Some of their guys have them, but
I'm looking for some wood to knock on, because that's you never know.
Well, I said they don't have health problems. Okay, they don't come into the season knowing, okay, this guy ain't going to practice all training camp. Okay, just take the picnic over to him, lay the basket out. Okay. There's none of that. And, they talked that it didn't matter last year that the top three of the top receivers were out. It matters. And there's a reason they practice. There's a reason, especially this year, again, with a new offense. And I assume, too, is going to be a point guard. Okay. Finding the right guy who's in the right matchup. And that takes practice. So, all right. Ralph wants to know, Omar, was it really necessary to deal Parker to the Patriots, the hated Patriots? He wasn't that expensive, and an injury to one of the top three receivers would make you wish we still had him here.
I'm a big believer in you don't keep a guy somewhere where he doesn't want to be. And it was very obvious and clear that Devante Parker didn't want to be here anymore. And I'm all in support of that, especially if you can get a good asset back. I felt like it's $6 million. Yeah, why not keep him here? It's a good breaking case of emergency for all 10 games he's going to be healthy. But I don't have an issue with trading him to the Patriots. I'm sorry. They don't have Tom Brady anymore. They don't scare me. I'm not going to be, looking at the Dolphins schedule in week 4 and being like, ooh, it's the Patriots. Oh, my God, they got Devante Parker. Oh, what are we going to do? Oh, my goodness. Devante Parker, he's about to tear up Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. I don't care about that. I thank you for the 3rd round pick. Now, Chris Greer, in his defense, he basically said, yeah, I was around here when we traded Wes Welker to the Patriots, and that didn't turn out so good for us. But he's like, he basically was like, yeah, I'll take the pick.
Yeah, to me, I'm surprised at Belichick on some level. I guess it tells how desperate they're for a receiver, because Devante Parker doesn't seem like a Belichick type of player. A guy who practices a lot. He's going to be healthy. He's going to run this, precision offense. So I'm curious to see how it works.
I remember talking to Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson's issues in his final year with New England, well, before, what happened with the Dolphins, was that the Patriots offense was incredibly difficult to learn.
Right.
I mean, it was like this thick. And, and it was a struggle. Now, it'll be interesting to see. Josh McDaniels gone. Nobody even knows who their offensive coordinator is. Might be Belichick, might not. It's going to be a completely different team. And, best of luck to Devante Parker. If you think about it, he was the most seasoned, tenured veteran on the Miami Dolphins team. Think about that. That just shows you he outlasted everybody. And truth be told, he never really had a good career here.
What he can have is a good game against the Dolphins. I don't think he'll have a Wes Welker impactful career, but he that game against the Dolphins, he could have a big game. That's the only fear here. But I'm with you. So what? You gotta get whatever you can best, and as a 3rd round pick from the Patriots, take it.
Yeah, I'm not scared of playing Devante Parker twice a year. I'm good. I'll be all right. I think Xavier Howard can handle it. So it's been pretty clear that this has been sort of a weird offseason, Dave. We've had a lot of weird off seasons here, covering the Miami Dolphins, but this one's been right up there at the top. This one's in the penthouse. First, there's the Brian Flores firing. Most of us didn't see that coming. Then there's the Brian Flores lawsuit. Nobody saw that coming, and all the mudslinging associated with his claims about Miami intentionally trying to lose games. They were. And offering him compensation to ensure that he should lose the final games of the season, which he should have. Then there was the slow and labored head coach search, which kind of left all of us like, huh? Like, what's going on? What's the wait here? Everybody else is interviewing candidates. Like, you're just sitting back, seeing how it all plays out. And then they hired Mike McDaniel. And now we learned, courtesy of some great reporting from Dave Hyde and others who've kind of.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just me, okay? I'm not the one who broke the story, okay?
No.
I confirmed angles of it, but I didn't break the story. It's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk.
Mike Florio's been banging that drum for quite a long while.
He was. I initially thought he was crazy.
So do I. I still think everybody is crazy on this situation. And in fact, Sean Payton basically came out and said this week, you guys are crazy. None of that was happening. Sure, it's great fiction, even though we all know coaches lie. But Dave, please explain to me how the Dolphins were batting their eyes at both Sean Payton and Tom Brady, both guys employed by NFL teams, one retired. This just seems so far-fetched to me, Dave. Make it make sense.
Well, Omar, let's start here. If you're going to get Tom Brady, if you're going to get him, if you go down that avenue and you believe, okay, there was something going on with Tom Brady there, right? And it wasn't just an ownership thing. Okay, we're going to get him in. Ben Voller reported they're going to get him in as the owner in that thing, and then he's going to say, "Oh, I've decided to unretire." And that, look, all that makes sense the way it's played out. Okay, it makes sense. If you believe that, Tom Brady wasn't coming to play for a first-year coach. Okay, he was going to have somebody who he would say, "I can win, and we're going to win right now, and I want somebody proven." Okay, so that's where the Sean Payton thing. Now, how far Sean Payton got down, was he even interested? I don't know. But he did talk to some people. Okay, it could have been one phone call to the guy that I talked to, but there was a talk, okay? And he might have, look, somebody comes to you for a job and you say, I'm not really interested, but I'll call some. It could have been that, okay? I don't know how far that got down, but if you believe that the Dolphins were interested in Brady, and there's a lot of breadcrumbs on that.
I mean, Flores told you that the Dolphins are interested in Brady.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, this was at the Super Bowl a year before they were interested in Brady. Why do you say this is far-fetched? Let's go to this. Let's say they did pull this off. Okay, and the other breadcrumb being dropped here is one you just mentioned, this slow cooking of the head coaching search. They interviewed Mike McDaniel and Kellen Moore like on a first interviews were the middle of 1 week, and they said, oh, next week we'll get him for the second interview. And I'm like, what?
We'll get around to it.
And in that break, right? They were slow-footing it for some reason. It made no sense. Now it makes sense. Now I talked to somebody in the Dolphins at the time, and I said, "What's going on?" They go, "Oh, this is going to be big." And I forgot all about that. Then they hired Mike McDaniel, look, I get it. Everybody knows he's going to be the greatest coach ever, but no other team wanted him at the time, so team interviewed him. Okay, so.
9 teams looking for head coaches. The Miami Dolphins are the only one to interview Mike McDaniel.
Right. And so my point here is something else was going on. And I had no idea what it was at the time. It made no sense to me. Okay. But let's say they pulled it off. This would be the number one top team in football. You would need a security guard at the ticket office. It would be bonkers around here. Okay. Imagine Tyreek Hill, Brady, the young diva. Are you kidding me? And plus, that was for Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator. He came in that whole picture. Remember, at the end of there was a question: is he going to be their defensive coordinator? Well, he didn't. That just didn't materialize out of nowhere. Okay, and so this would have been, as big as people are talking about this offseason went for the Dolphins, it would have been bonkers if they pulled this off.
I will only give this some credence under this condition and understanding. 2 things. Clearly, as everybody is pointing to, Tom Brady and Bruce Beal, who is the owner in waiting for the Miami Dolphins, they've got a close relationship. There are too many tea leaves to make you not realize Tom Brady is going to be running the Miami Dolphins at some point in the near future.
If he wants to.
Owning the Miami Dolphins at some point in the near future.
If he wants to. I mean, he's building a house in Don Shula's old neighborhood at Indian Creek on Miami Beach. It's an exclusive, like 39 homes or something like that. So look, he's making South Florida. Who knows with him and Giselle, their home or a home? I don't know, but they're building a mansion here. Okay, so
clearly he wants to be. I mean, every professional athlete wants to be an owner of a professional team, primarily the league that they. Oh, I think so. I think that's the height of the crown jewel of achievements. Look at his peers. Look at Michael Jordan. That's the league that Tom Brady wants to be in. He wants to be a professional sports owner.
I agree. I think Brady does, but you say every. I'm not sure every.
Majority. I'm talking about the upper echelon, not the riffraff, Dave. Not the riffraff. Let's get them out of here. I'm talking about the elites, the guys that the one name guys. So it makes some sense. Now, and here's the other caveat that I will say this gets a smidgen of credit and credence and truth. We all know Steve Ross is a big game hunter. All he does, if it's a half court shot, he's going to take the half court shot. He's directed all his executives. Now that I listen to Chris Greer, every single time I've had access to Chris Greer is basically, the sentiment is shoot or shoot. Steve wants me to shoot. I'm shooting. I'm shooting at everything.
And it wasn't just Bruce Beal who had Bruce Beal had the close friendly relationship with them, with Giselle and Tom Brady.
Oh, you got Giselle in there too.
Oh yeah, they're friends. They're social friends. Okay, but let's remember, Brady's a Michigan guy. Steve Ross is a Michigan guy. There are a lot of ways this bonded into existence.
And Tom Brady's in a forever stick it to the Patriots mode.
Oh, can you imagine? He comes to the Dolphins. Anything bigger than that? I mean, the Patriots are losing players left and right, and what are they going to do? It's kind of a bizarre situation there. And again, if Dolphins got Brady and Sean Payton or some other big name veteran coach, okay, but it would be they'd be all over.
Could have got Josh McDaniels, I guess.
They'd be
could have got Josh McDaniels. At that time, he hadn't taken the Raiders job. Him and the Raiders just came out of nowhere.
You don't think teams, coaches who won a Super Bowl ring would have come here? I mean, this would have been
about for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I don't like about this whole Brady, Sean Payton rumor. One, I'm not a big person. I shot my shot at a supermodel. I didn't get the number. Do I brag about shooting my shot at a supermodel? Like, no, I don't. So I hate the fact that this is like out there in the universe and everybody's talking about.
Omar, you're a reporter. What do you mean you hate it's out there? This happened. Okay. Now the Dolphins are moving on. It's sort of like people when it came out, the Dolphins were interested in Desean Watson. No, they're not. They are not. That's far-fetched. It was true.
I was always, yes, they are. True. Yes, they are.
This was true, too. Okay, now, how far it got to, I don't know.
Yeah. But if we never went on a date, Dave, were we really talking?
Yes, you're really talking, Omar. You're really talking. Right up to the point Brian Flores' lawsuit dropped.
What does Flores' lawsuit have to do with?
Well, it has to do if there is proof that he was game fixing, not just saying let's play young players, but going to the coach, he'll be out of it as owner. And all of a sudden, what do you do that, Omar? The FBI will be coming in. There will be game fixing. The government will get all over it.
This is not the first organization that's tanked games.
Name another one where
Cleveland for 2 years.
Name another one where the owner has said, "Here's $100,000 to the coach. Go out and lose." If a gambler does that, guy's going to jail. Huh?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Big word. Listen.
But that's when you say
obvious as day, the Dolphins were tanking, and the only idiot that wasn't tanking was Brian Flores. Very clear, obvious. Like this is not like make believe. That did they have a conversation with him and say, hey guy, you should be losing games. Stop doing this.
But Omar, to me, here's the overriding issue. You're going to tank. Everybody knew it. Everybody saw it.
Except for Brian Flores.
No, you're missing the point. When they interview the coaches, you got to talk about this. You got to get on the same page.
They didn't.
And they didn't. How could you not? That's like the overriding issue in the franchise is here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the number 1 pick. Are you on board with that?
It blows my mind. He says never a conversation about it.
How could you do that?
While they're sabotaging your team and cutting all these veterans and trading away your best players, you think what? He's like, I think it's a challenge. And I'm like, okay, all right, forget it. Like,
but that's how coaches think. What are you talking about? If his mission is to go win games in his mind,
yes,
right?
Correct. Yes.
Would you want a coach who that wasn't their mission? If so, you better check that out ahead of time.
Yeah,
okay. And they didn't.
Sure
and they
everybody's on the same page.
And they didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
That's the mystifying part of all this to me.
I can't even wrap my mind around it. I've talked to candidates who talked to them during that cycle, and they said yes. They made it clear we're not trying to win games. We're trying to rebuild, get picks and quarterbacks. But hey, c'est la vie. We're moving on, and hopefully this lawsuit will settle a lot of these murky, unclear situations. I know this. I don't think Brian Flores is interested in settling anything. So
it sure doesn't look like it. And I will say this as far as the denials by Sean Payton and others. Again, I don't know how far it went with Sean Payton. It could have been one phone call. It could have I don't know. But it's in nobody's best interest right now to say yes. I was interested because then the NFL is going to be all over for tampering.
Oh yeah,
they already have the Dolphins on tampering if they want with Steve Ross trying to talk to Brady and Flores denying. Okay,
not only that, but Steve Ross and Sean Payton and Sean Payton's got an employer.
Well, if this is true, yeah.
But they do these things through agents, so. But here's the thing: if Sean Payton was going, and this is where I put this in the fiction category. Everybody in the world, including the NFL world, knows Sean Payton's going to be coaching the Dallas Cowboys. Let's stop pretending that he's not.
Well, let's stop pretending. The team that's getting Tom Brady. It wouldn't make you hesitate. Oh, wait a second. Tom Brady's there. We could win right. Could we win right now? Maybe we could. Let me make a phone call and talk to a couple people. That would make you hesitate. But yeah, when he retired from New Orleans, everybody thought he was going to Dallas. But he also said, "I'll be back coaching real soon."
He will. Once he's been burned out, man. He needs a break.
He's burned out because the Saints are awful. They got real problems. I'd be burned out.
I think I've heard about Sean Payton burnout for a number of years before the Saints got awful. So yeah, I think it was coming. Sean Payton needs a timeout. He needs a TO. So, and I think he's going to get it this year, next year. Go do TV, refresh himself, and then he'll be back in the Jimmy Johnson role with maybe the Miami Dolphins or the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see.
Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, you can pre-order my book. I just turned it in with Jimmy Johnson's book called Swagger with Scribner's and Sons. Yeah,
did you really write a book called Swagger?
That's the commercial. I'm just making a commercial here, Omar. You might get sick of me.
The University of Miami, he Swagger for Jimmy Johnson. Fitting, right?
Swagger, and it goes through everything. It goes through his UM days, his Dallas days, problems with Jerry, Dolphin days, the issues here. And it's all right. It's basically a guy who got to the top of the mountain and didn't like the guy he became that he to get at the top to the top of the mountain. And so it's a lot of fun working with Jimmy, as you can imagine, fascinating.
I will be excited to read that, Dave. Excellent work on your part. Let's get to a question we got here from Sean, who's got a good one. This is important, Dave. Do you think adding Brady, if Tua struggles this season, would be a good move for this franchise? Personally, his age just wouldn't make sense to me.
You can't answer that question now. You can't answer. If you said in January, meaning 2 months ago, would it have been a good move? Yeah, I would say bring in Brady. It would be bringing the big three to the Heat. Okay, as far as the carnival, the circus around the franchise. But you're
Question
saying,
for you: would you take Brady or Desean Watson?
well, you mean with all the Desean Watson problems?
Yes.
I don't want Desean Watson. I just don't want that. I don't want to
Your
deal
loss.
with it.
No.
Okay. I could be, but you asked that. Okay, but as far as Brady next year, look, there's so much. He's old. We know that he's going to turn 45. What's he going to play like this year? At some point, he's got to start playing his age, doesn't he? Is it this year? I don't know. What if Tua is great this year? What if everything clicks and McDaniel works and Tyreek Hill works and the Dolphin offense takes off? So when you say, okay, if Tua struggles this season, that'd be one half of the equation. But who knows where Brady will be a year from now either.
That's a very good point. It's not a fair question because you're saying, do I want Tua or the greatest quarterback of all time? Like that's not fair. And we don't know where either of these quarterbacks will be. Excellent answer on your part, Dave.
All right, Omar. William Price wants to know, after all the offseason moves and free agency, is this the most confident you've been about Miami succeeding?
No, it's not, Dave. I actually remember the 2017 season, first day of training camp. I'm there, I'm talking to you, and I'm absolutely giddy, Dave, because I'm like, we just went to the playoffs. They got better. I'm going to actually be covering a good team. It's been a long time, Dave. It's been a long time. This is year 2 of Gase. They had just had a decent draft, had some good free agents, and then right comes my kneecap gets slapped out from under me when Tannehill goes down with his second knee injury, and then they bring in Jay Cutler. And I'm watching Jay Cutler, and Jay Cutler was one hell of a practice player. I will say this. All that you hear about the arm, it's legitimate. Now, that's in practice, where nobody's hitting him, and he can step into throws, and he doesn't fear anybody hitting him. Now, when we got to the game, completely different Jay Cutler, because there's traffic, there's people in his face, he can't step into the throw, and he was playing hot potato with the ball the whole season because he was trying to cash his $10 million check, play the season, and walk away without any injuries. Yeah, and remember, he got his ribs broken. After that, it was even worse.
I remember he spent the year in a Marriott hotel, and how many Marriott points did he rack up? That's one stat I never did learn. I talked to him about spending it in a Marriott. Okay, here's my issue with the question, and why I'm having trouble. It ends with, is this the most confident you've been about Miami succeeding? What is success for this team? That's going to be the interesting thing. Is it making the playoffs?
Win. That's my definition.
Playoff win? Okay.
A playoff win.
So a playoff win would suggest they're contending, right? They're contending for the AFC.
I ain't going that far. Oh, calm down. Calm down.
Okay.
So you haven't done since 2000.
The bar is a playoff win.
Yeah, that's the bar.
Here's what I'm wrestling with. Vegas, and this changes. Vegas, the last I looked, had them ranked as the 10th best AFC team. And I'm like, what? After all this? after all that, and I'm not saying it's true. We're too far away from the season for me to sit back.
Yeah. I mean, but 10? Come on,
but
we can be 7.
But it's not a sure thing. They're a playoff team.
No, you're right. No, I agree with you. That's the thing. They've improved drastically, but so has the rest of the AFC.
Right.
I mean, AFC
did the NFC sign anybody? Did they?
No, they didn't.
Everybody.
Everybody is rebuilding in the NFC. It's really weird that there are like a couple of teams like Dallas that are going for it. And when I did my breakdown of what teams did this offseason, they're all like, yeah, we're going for 2023 quarterbacks. We're taking for Tua. It's like I couldn't really understand it, and everybody who wants to compete came to the AFC. There's the Rams, Dallas,
Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay was kind of rebuilding. Let's be real. Tampa Bay is kind of rebuilding.
You can't have a 45-year-old quarterback and say you're rebuilding.
I mean, if he's the greatest quarterback of all time, you can. But I mean, come on, and that's the thing. He propped up some bad Patriots teams. Let's not deny that he did.
Sure, of course he did. That's what great quarterbacks do.
Okay, so you can, and that's why I won't say, like, if he was added to this Dolphins team, they wouldn't be a contender. Because, yeah, they kind of would, no matter who you added. Because he's pretty good. He's a pretty good quarterback. Makes everybody around him pretty good.
All right, Dolphin Spence asks, which player could be collateral damage in the new coaching staff scheme changes, Omar?
I got 2 for you. Dos. I think Solomon Kinley. You know my feelings on Solomon Kinley already. I don't think he's very good. He wasn't a very good starter when he started as a rookie. He didn't even sniff the field last year. And unless he gets down to the 320s, I'll be generous and say 330s. He's got no chance in this scheme where you need athletic offensive linemen. And then I'll give you another guy. Myles Gaskin seems to be forgotten man. Starting back for the Miami Dolphins for the last 2 years, he kind of lost his starting job last year to Duke Johnson, who's now with the Buffalo Bills. But I don't know if his skill set or the things that he brings to the table fits into what Mike McDaniels wants to do. All of these guys, including Salvon Ahmed, they've got speed. Myles Gaskin, that's not really the strength of his game. Now, maybe his vision allows him to step to the forefront or continue to impress, but I think he's kind of the odd man out, especially on the last year of his deal. That's a guy, if another team wants him, that's a piece I would think the Dolphins would consider trading.
Yeah, the guy, it's not really a scheme change so much as time has moved on, and that's Austin Jackson. What are they going to do with him? He's going to have one more chance to at somewhere else at another,
right tackle.
Right tackle seems to be, but that's a kind of a crowded position of it's the land of forgotten toys, right? I mean, guys who you expected to have, a couple years ago, were going to be great, or even last year. They're going to be the future. And now it's can any of them win that? Who wins that job is going to be the interesting part of this.
It's the most important spot for Tua on the offensive line. So the stakes are high. Eichenberg, Jackson. I'd even put Hunt in there. I think Hunt is better tackle than
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even Greg Little. Remember they traded for him. That's a former second-round pick. And this is a new scheme change. He's got a lot of athleticism, which is why I was surprised he didn't play for the team last year, because I would have played him at guard. I thought he was better than what they had to offer at guard. But it is what it is. We'll see. There's always going to be collateral loss in the coaching change. Every single time you'll have players who don't fit the scheme. Fortunately for Miami, they had a lot of carryover on defense. So you're not going to have that much collateral loss on that unit.
Speaking, we talked to Wes Welker earlier. The one that always comes to my mind is Samson Sattelli, who was, when the Dolphins lost Wes Welker to New England, Samson Sattelli was a second-round draft pick. pretty good athletic center. But then Bill Parcells comes in the next year and wants big power guys.
He wants a power pig.
Sattelli was out. Okay, and that happens. Every time there's a change, there's 3 or 4 of those guys who.
Jake Grove was his signing, and Jake Grove lasted all of 1 year before he got thrown out.
Yeah. All right, Tua Tagovailoa finally talked for the first time all offseason, and it was interesting to hear some of his answers. He seems to be in good spirits and really excited about the relationship he's building with Mike McDaniel. He's also in a roundabout way acknowledged the frosty relationship he had with Brian Flores. First, there was a no comment when asked if he was surprised about Flores' firing, and all that took place in the offseason. Then when he was pressed about his relationship with the Dolphins' former head coach, he dropped that, "I'm thankful he drafted me to the Miami Dolphins." All that juicy, gossipy stuff. But the important elements of yesterday's discussion center on the challenges Tua faces, learning his 6th offense in as many years. That surprises me. 6 he counted. And the pressure he feels to make the most with all his weapons, with the team he's been given, and his push to become a better leader for the Dolphins. Omar, what's the bar for Tua in year 3?
Dave, I'm going to give you some very specific bars. Once we already talked about playoff win. That's my bar for the Miami Dolphins to have, by definition, a successful season. A playoff win. That means you have to make it to the playoffs. That means you have to have a winning season. Now, for Tua, I'm going to keep it simple for you. You know who the 12th highest rated quarterback in the NFL was last season, Dave?
I do, Omar, because I read your column this morning.
Oh, wow. Okay. It was Teddy Bridgewater, who happens to be Tua Tagovailoa's backup. So if Teddy Bridgewater, I have respect for Teddy. I think Teddy is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he's in the Chad Pennington, Ryan Fitzpatrick mold. He's a leader. He's a commander. Guys like him. He can win games. Now, can he take you to the playoffs? Even though he has taken Minnesota to the playoffs. But I have the NFL at 8 elite quarterbacks. Not elite, upper echelon quarterbacks. That's my line. They're 8. Right on that line is Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. Right on that line. Okay. Tua Tagovailoa has to be right under there. He has to be right under there. In the Jimmy Garoppolo community, in the Ryan Tannehill neighborhood. That means he's got to be the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, statistically. Now, I believe that that's not far for him. That's not hard for him to achieve. And here's the reason why. I have been obsessed with this particular offense that I believe that Mike McDaniel is going to run and employ. It is my favorite offense and has been for quite some while, going back to Shanahan's Denver days, going back to the Washington days. Oh, lo and behold, when it was run in Houston by – who ran it in Houston? I forgot his name. But it's been it's what I believe in. You know, Dave, I believe in what? Running the football.
Well, you got the right head coach because he was the running coordinator for San Francisco. And
yes.
It is a passing league, but
listen, and if you asked me last year, before Mike McDaniel took over, what would I say? Who is my favorite team in the postseason? Who do I like? San Francisco 49ers. I believe in that brand. I believe in that style of football. And I believe that it will benefit Tua Tagovailoa for this exact reason. It alleviates the pressure that's going to be placed on him. It facilitates play-action passing game, which I think is an underutilized game that he will excel in. I believe at the basement, he can be Jake Plummer. And I like Jake Plummer. I believed in Jake Plummer. I think that's a good enough quarterback in that style of offense So I don't see any reason why he can't have success. Now, what I define as success and what you define as success might be two different things, but he's already proven he's a winning quarterback in the NFL, 13-8. There's one game last season where in the fourth quarter, he didn't hand over the ball to the defense without a lead in a fourth quarter game. So he's proven he can win. The question I have is, how good can he put a team on his back and rally them and carry them? I don't have the answer to that yet.
Yeah, to me, the bar is just going to be like, it's sort of like the Justice Potter's definition of pornography. I know it when I see it. I mean, you need to come out of a game saying, some games, not all, because it's never all, some games saying he won the game, he carried the game, not he accompanied the defense to the, and that's really what his winning record has been, and through no fault of his own. Look, he has a winning record, but very few games that you come out saying they needed him to be great, and he was great. What he's done, what he's been really good at is not making too many mistakes. Okay, and that is a starting point of any really good quarterback in the league. Okay,
I find your claims disrespectful. In the Atlanta Falcons game, they're trailing. He rallies the team down the field, gives them a lead.
You can always come up with the anecdotal evidence to counteract. I'm saying in general, he accompanied teams to, and you want to come out of games saying he took them to victory. Yeah, the Atlanta game he should have won that game in the fourth quarter, and Mike Pitts made a great catch to over Xavier Howard to win that game. I mean, that happens. But in general, the ratings, all that stuff. I love how he carries himself. I love his answers yesterday. People talk about pressure. They don't look at it like that. The players don't. They look at, okay, now I have an opportunity to win. Mike McDaniel has a great opportunity this year. Oh, who cares that the Dolphins were the only team to interview him? He has a great opportunity. He has sudden talent to make use of, and it'll be fascinating to see what they do with this offense. Same with Tua. He has a great opportunity this year.
Our next questions come from Joshua CLM. What positions do you think still needs more competition and depth, Dave?
Oh, well, I mean, if you're looking for the linebackers would come into first play, you know. Are we going to go to the offensive line again? I really hope not, because they have so much competition, so many bodies there. But
they have so many bodies, but how many centers do they have, Dave? How many centers do they have?
How many do they need?
You had to have 3 centers last year because Michael Dieter went down and everybody sucked. Like 3 centers in a season, Dave? How about you just try to address the problem now and actually fix the problem and not try to put some Band-Aid on it and a little bit of Gorilla Glue? And how about you just go out and sign a J.C. Trotter and say, here, now we have no excuse for this offensive line not to be elite. Like, I'm sorry. I don't buy this Michael Dieter. Oh, teams are trying to trade for Michael Dieter from us. So, like, has Michael Dieter in 3 years shown you absolutely anything that makes you say he's going to be a top 10 center in the NFL?
I would assume with that draft pick, they're either going to trade up for a center or they're going to get a free agent center. I just assume that. But, you know, if we're talking a unit, I think they're, you know, a couple of the linebackers need that's where I would upgrade. If you're saying we can upgrade right here, that would be my first look.
Yeah, I think they need to upgrade the defensive line spots. Not just the ends and the edge rushers. Who knows what they're going to do with Jalen Phillips? If they're going to make Jalen Phillips a linebacker, or are they going to make Jalen Phillips specifically an edge player? You know, they kind of wanted to do linebacker, then it wasn't working as they had hoped. They scrapped it and said, hey, just go hunt the quarterback. He had success, 8 sacks during that stretch. You know, I would think you stick with what works and scrap all that foolishness. But knowing the Dolphins, I know they're going to go back to the foolishness. And you know, the reason I say defensive tackle, nose tackle, is because if you look at the contracts of Christian Wilkins, you look at where Raekwon Davis is, you look at where, I forget all their linebackers.
Zach Taylor.
Yeah, everybody's contract's up in 2 years. So, you got to be forward thinking if we're gonna be talking about. I know Christian Wilkins is working on an extension, and there's a 5th-year option, and that's all cool and good. But you got to make sure you got yourself covered. That's what the NFL is about. That's what good front offices do. Jerome asks, does this defense need a true inside linebacker in the vein of Zach Thomas?
Doesn't every team? I mean, if you're saying, could you have a Zach Thomas? Yes, we need that. But this gets, look, Landon Roberts, he's a thumper, right? He can hit hard. He can hit hard. But if you're saying, could you upgrade from that? Would you want to a Zach Thomas? Yes, I would want to. And yeah, I think that's a place where, look, no team has a perfect roster, but that would be a position if you say, could we upgrade? I'd upgrade.
I don't like how you say no team has a perfect roster, because the Dolphins have known they've had linebacker issues for 3 years and
absolutely,
and haven't been able to fix it in 3 years, and keep hoping. And no disrespect to Landon Roberts, and I've got this very weird and complicated relationship with the Landon Roberts right now.
He doesn't like you. Let's
by my theory, we would like each other if we got to know each other and spend some time together. Allow me to defend myself, Dave. Like, yes, he doesn't like me. He had a career year last year. He's an NFL player, if not a good starter, upper echelon starting linebacker, but he's a 2-down player. On passing downs, I'm targeting him. I'm attacking him. I'm going after him. And if that's your linebacker unit, you should do something. You should try to fix it. Now, you could put Duke Riley on the field on passing downs, and I have respect for Duke. And I think you can get more out of Duke. But it doesn't necessarily address your situation and your problem. Even Jerome last year, Jerome started as an inside linebacker, kind of struggled at the beginning of the year, started thriving as an outside linebacker, the position he played before Flores got here. How do you – it's kind of a hodgepodge mix of mismatching linebackers. How do you fix that, Dave?
Well, you look at it from the other side. If you're an offensive coordinator, where do you attack? You don't want to attack Xavier Howard consistently. You don't want to attack Javon Holland. The secondary is strong. So you look at, okay, where can we attack you? And I don't know who Duke Riley is yet. He made some nice plays last year. Now, is he gonna make progressive step forward? Is he over? We haven't seen enough.
This is a guy who's been a starter in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, but if I'm an offensive coordinator, where am I going to attack? It's probably those two that linebacker set. So they need to either be better, or and take steps forward, or the Dolphins have to come up with some schematic or player answers there.
Who is your best guess? This is a question from Jesse Muniz. Who's your best guess on offense and defense players that will be camp surprises this year, Dave?
Well, we haven't even gone through the draft, so we can't.
We don't have any draft picks, Dave.
There's no draft.
We don't have any. This is what you have to talk about.
I'm going to go with a surprise. I probably used them last year. I don't even know if this is allowed, but Jalen Phillips, I think he is going to emerge into a really, really nice player, taking that first year to second year step. You saw it coming on at the end of last year, and I think he's ready to be a big time player in the NFL.
Linebacker or edge player?
But I'm curious to see how they use it, what he's comfortable in doing, and he's similar. Bigger, though, to Jason Taylor. I'm talking body size. And Jason lined up as a defensive tackle for his first, really until Saban came. So almost for 8-9 years, he was lining up as a defensive end. Then Saban started moving him around. I don't know what he's capable of, what this defense is ready for him to do. So I might slow cook that a little, but you put him on the edge, and I see why the temptation would be to move him around with his size and athleticism. But as an edge rusher, you saw him make strides last year. That's usually a position that takes a couple or a few years to really get your stride in. And so it'll be interesting to see where he comes this year.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the camp surprises. Savon Ahmed, young receiver. He really, really showed in training camp that he was a pass catching threat, a guy with a lot of speed. I think that Mike McDaniel is going to fall in love with that, especially if he's practicing while Raheem Mostert is recovering from the knee injury. And then I'll throw you another name, Greg Little, who, they traded for. They didn't trust him to play him last year, but let's not pretend like they were making smart decisions on the offensive line. Not to say that a team, Carolina gave up on him. Dolphins got him for next to nothing. But, at this point, Greg Little should look at it and be like, yo, this is kind of my last chance and opportunity to cement myself and prove that I'm an NFL starter. And I think I love when players get to that desperation hunger level. And I think he might be there. So he might end up being the starting right guard or right tackle. Who knows? And then Lynn Bowden Jr., who is working exclusively with Tua. Hopefully Tua's teaching him the offense. That's a guy with a lot of talent, a lot of ability. Well, Raiders took him in the 3rd round, traded him to Miami in the same year. So obviously there's some red flags there. And he's got to get rid of those red flags, but I think the talent is there.
Yeah, the question to me with him is how many small receivers can you have a whole unit of small receivers?
He's roughed up. He's kind of thick. He's built like a running back. He's got
what's he 5'9"? I mean, he's in the same mold as
5'11", 200 pounds.
Okay, he's bigger than I thought. Okay.
But yeah, 5'11", 200 pounds. Yeah,
But you'd have 3 receivers, smallish receivers. Okay. I'm just curious. Usually,
all of Kansas City's receivers are smallish. I don't think it stopped them from being effective. Their running back is like 5'6". Like, if you make plays, you make plays.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 6'5" tight end. They had Sammy Watkins, who's 6'1".
I don't think he played when they won a championship, but yes.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So, Dave, any predictions for the draft for Dave Hyde?
Yeah, I will be there. That will be my prediction. I'll leave it to you because there's not going to be a whole lot going on there. And I'll either be at a Heat game, depending on this series, or preparing for a Heat game.
Yeah.
Or a Panthers game. Can we win 2 titles in South Florida this spring? I mean, is it possible?
Get to two finals. That would be pretty impressive. I'm going to have a prediction that I think the Dolphins will trade into day 2, trade up to be active in day 2. There hasn't been a draft where Chris Greer doesn't make a trade. He's made more trades in the NFL than any other GM that's had his time had his time span. Chris Greer can't help himself. He will make a trade. All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming. Appreciate you watching. We will be back after the draft. We're not leading up to the draft because the draft nobody cares about. Again, not in South Florida. You know how it's a weak draft, Dave? But nobody wants to trade up. So
Chris Greer's going to trade up, I just heard.
Trade not into the first.
Okay.
Oh, actually, if you pay attention to my mock draft, which is coming out this weekend, I do have Chris Greer trading to the first. So let me not spoil that. But if you know who the player is, you'll realize it's worth it. So appreciate you coming. You can find X's and Omar any spot that you find your podcasts. We will be back after the draft that Wednesday. So 2 weeks from now. See you then.